All right, welcome to HESSCO's program called HESSCO Services, What Has Changed and What Has Stayed the Same. My name is Cheryl Leary and I am the Director of Planning and Community Development at HESSCO, and I will be guiding us through the program today. So, the first thing we want to let you know is that this program is being recorded. We are trying to upload this after we record this video to our YouTube channel. So for that reason, please refrain from sharing any personal details in your questions. If you do have questions that require you to share significant personal details, we will provide you with contact information for all the presenters at the end of the program, and just reach out to them directly so you can share that personal question. As always, general questions are welcome. So just to go over a little bit of housekeeping, please try to keep yourself on mute when you are not speaking. This helps us eliminate the background noise. And if you are on Zoom and not on the phone, please share your video so we can see you. It does help us to know who we're talking to. And we will have time for questions at the end of the program. You can feel free to use the chat feature if you are on Zoom to post a question, or feel free also to take yourself off mute and ask your question directly to the speakers. Okay, so for today's program, we're going to hear from HESSCO's Executive Director and 3 Program Directors, and each will provide an overview on the key points regarding the services that HESSCO provides, and we will have time for questions at the end. So first, I'm going to welcome our first speaker, who is Mary Jean McDermott, the HESSCO Executive Director.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our virtual learning event. Just a little basics about what HESSCO is. We are an Aging Service Access Point, or an ASAP, and we are also an Area Agency on Aging. As you can see from the map there, we cover 12 towns in the South Norfolk County area. Our funding comes through a combination of state and federal money, and the goal of our organization is to support older individuals, their caregivers, and individuals with disabilities to remain living in the community for as long as possible, as safely as possible. You'll hear a lot more about some of the details about some of the programs, the nutrition program and the home care program, and the ombudsman program as other speakers come up. So HESSCO, we were considered and are considered an essential service. So we remained open. We never closed during this time of the pandemic. We were had a very limited staff here at the office, and continue to be having staff come in. It's just about at 25% of what normally we would have in the office. The majority of our staff are working remotely. You know, people that aren't working remotely are the site managers. They've been out there from the very beginning and doing a great job. But we were fortunate that we had the technology in place already, so that we could just say to staff, okay, it's time to go home now. And people could pick up and go home and, you know, use their, be connected to everything we needed at home. So some of the challenges was certainly trying to, you know, figure out what the need was going to be from the, and how we could provide for the services that we have been providing for the beginning of the agency. But, you know, we looked at the priority, and the priority was really going to be the nutrition program. Again, Jane Davis will talk more about that. But it, you know, people needed to get food. We increased the numbers exponentially in a very quick time. You know, when we had a lot more people interested in the meals program because shopping was difficult. I mean, it was, you know, it was difficult to get out to the store. Was it safe to get out to the store? You know, so there were a lot of challenges there. So, you know, we really tried to identify those needs that were, you know, foremost in the minds of consumers, and how could we address those. We made some changes to the infrastructure just so that people that were at home could dial into a code that we had here, such that when they consumer was receiving the call, it would say from HESSCO, because as you know, we get lots of spam calls every day, and it was getting difficult for people to people couldn't identify who was calling, so we did make that one change. And we're trying to figure out what's next. What's the next thing that we can do or should do in order to meet the new challenges. And certainly we worked well with our longtime partners, the Councils on Aging. And again, it was a lot of it was around food. It was around food pantries, food deliveries. How are we going to get things out to people? And we had one day, as Jane and I said, we paused for one day when the new regulations around masks came out, and remarkably, the community stepped forward and made us many masks so that we were able to meet that need. So that we just had a short pause one day for the meals. So again, what's next? We've had some increased funding from the state and federal government. How can we prepare our consumers for communicating with us virtually? Many people are now being offered the opportunity to do a video conference with their physician instead of going to the doctor's office. So how can we step up and identify those resources for consumers that they would need in order to remain as connected as possible? So, we're trying to look broadly at the things that we do, how we do them, how can we do them differently, and, to keep the community informed about what we're doing, by sending out newsletters, having, who would guess I would ever say the HESSCO YouTube channel, but in fact, we have one. That will, continue to put up new information on so that we can, reach as many people as possible through different medium. So, as you know, this is being recorded today, and so we hope that we will be able to, have this as a resource for people to look at in the future. So I think that's all of my section. Cheryl?
Thank you very much, Mary Jean. So next we're going to welcome our next speaker, Lisa Clark. Lisa is the Home Care Program Director for HESSCO. Lisa, you might need to take yourself off mute.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you to all of you for taking some time out to spend with us and learn a little bit more about HESSCO and what we're doing here. So as Cheryl mentioned, my name is Lisa Clark. I direct the home care programs. Currently, we continue to deliver our services, making sure that, as Mary Jean mentioned, that we live our mission and that we are able to continue to provide services and support to the most vulnerable elders and individuals with disabilities. And some of those services are information and referral. Our information and referral department ensures that we can connect the community or callers to services and supports like home care services, among other resources needed. That's done through an assessment over the phone. We also have our home care-based services, which provide a variety of services from homemaking to personal care, laundry, chore, adult health, and a variety of services. In addition to that, we also have our caregiver support, our elder services protective program, nutrition, which Jane will also talk about a little bit later. And, it's very important for us that through this time, we continue to deliver our services as quickly and as safely as possible, to communicate to our consumers, so they understand what we were doing here in response to COVID and what we were going to do to ensure that they get their services delivered safely. So our response to COVID in home care was to make sure that when we connected with our service providers, we started off talking with them daily to make sure that we were asking questions, making sure that they had appropriate PPE or personal protective equipment, that we could relay on the home care end any concerns, challenges of our consumers and also our care managers. So that communication was key for us in working in connection with our service providers, which have been great. We have been lucky to say that together with our service providers, we continue to deliver service. Any service suspensions were mostly on the side of the consumers because of, whether it was fear initially when we first started with this pandemic, or if it was just that they wanted to wait it out to see what was happening. So we have had some success there that we're continuing to be able to deliver our services. Also for our elder protective services, which is a very important, like most of our programs, very important program. But in this department, we are making sure that we are identifying any elder that's at risk. So in this program, we continue to take our consumers in this program and making sure that we are connecting with the most vulnerable and the most at risk. We've had to get creative about how we are going to connect with consumers or individuals that come into the elder protective services so that we can respect confidentiality and ensure that we're putting in the right intervention for elders that are at risk. The way that we're doing this is making sure that we're following as much as possible our current process and protocol for screening our intakes, but we're also making sure that if any elder is at risk and needs to be seen, our staff is going out using the proper protective equipment, keeping social distancing protocols, and just making sure that we're able to, eye our consumers or our elders so that they know that we're here and that we can work with them. Also, also to mention our home care staff that has been, again, excellent in helping us to continue the work that we're doing. We've made sure to give them the ability to work from home. Connecting with our staff is also very important to ensure that we're supporting their needs while they're at home, so they can continue to do the work remotely. We have daily calls with each of our programs, just again, to keep that connection with staff, to provide updates. We know during this time, during this COVID response, there's a lot of changes day to day. So it's important to have a form of check-in with our staff. So we do that every day. We also are still working with our staff to make sure that we are not doing face-to-face visits, but that we're doing our telephonic visits, which means that we're doing our assessments for our existing consumers and any new consumers that are waiting to come in to receive services. The way we do it now is a little different. We're still able to deliver certain types of services, but it's really in the manner that we are assessing. We're going to start to use a little more technology, but right now we're using, telephonically connecting with our consumers to be able to assess them and provide the services that we can, so there is no interruption in service. And we're working with the Executive Office of Elder Affairs with specific guidance on how we're doing this. So make sure that we are maintaining, our regulations as much as possible. And again, delivering services. Some of the things that we do when we are talking to our consumers, which is key to be able to continue to deliver services, to talk about their services. Also use that opportunity when our staff or our care managers are connecting with consumers to check in, to see how they're doing. We call them well-being checks, but it's really just an opportunity to say hello, to let them know that HESSCO is still here, that initially there was a lot of fear. And I know that in consumers having a familiar voice from their agency has been key to be able to help to support them through this time. time. And again, filtering all information that we can through respected sites like the CDC websites and the Department of Public Health to make sure that any information that we're giving on the phones or to our consumers is the right information. We know that there's a lot of things, a lot of information being thrown out there around COVID. There's different scams, fraud, there's a lot happening. So it's very important for our staff, you know, that we keep them informed with the right information so that they can also communicate that to their consumers and to our callers. You know, one of the things that I wanted to mention that I think is a great new innovative way that we're looking at delivering our services, and I believe Mary Jean mentioned this when she was speaking, is that, you know, we want to incorporate assistive technology. We want to incorporate this technology to better support communication with our consumers, but so that our consumers are able to communicate to caregivers, healthcare providers, medical professionals. Some of the devices that have been identified that could help in supporting communication are tablets, smartphones, laptops, of course. So we're exploring all of these different devices and different programs, one to help identify the right devices for the types of consumers we serve, also to help support how they're going to be able to receive the device and pay for it. So those are all things that we're working on as a management team, and there's some great ideas about how we're going to do that. I know that the first thing is to, you know, help our consumers understand, you know, what the changes are going to be. And I think we're doing a good job by continuing communication with them. But, you know, we'll continue to provide our consumers support, especially with anything new and innovative like the use of assistive technology. But a lot of the benefits that we have seen in some of the use of technology is, you know, it increases the support and assistance so that we can provide services but still maintain social distancing. Also, it helps to decrease isolation. We're seeing that there's a lot of different virtual programs for anyone that's really, you know, isolated or maybe just, you know, wanting to be safe and maintaining social distancing at home but still want to be able to have some interaction. And there's a lot of virtual activities around health and wellness. So there's a lot of good things that are out there that as a team we are looking at so that we can, you know, find out what are the best services and supports for our consumers so they can continue to thrive. So we're excited about, you know, what's ahead. There has been some challenges, but I think we've done a great job in trying to, you know, work through everything. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Lisa. Our next speaker is Jane Davis. She is our HESSCO Nutrition Program Director.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hope everybody is well. So as Cheryl mentioned, my name is Jane Davis. I'm the Nutrition Director here at HESSCO. And what has changed and what has stayed the same? I guess from my program, what has stayed the same is we deliver meals. What has changed is everything else. All the protocols that we had followed prior to March 17th or 18th have done a 180 flip. You know, we knew, as Mary Jean mentioned early on, you know, our program was essential to keeping seniors, you know, safe, secure in their home, and, you know, with having access to food. So we pride ourselves in that we have delivered meals every single day except one. And I will never forget that one. I called Mary Jean first thing Sunday morning. She's like, you know, no, we have to stay open. I'm like, we can't stay open. The CDC just recommended that everybody wear a mask. We need to figure this out in 24 hours. So we took one day off and figured it out, contacted all the COAs, all the directors, and within 24 hours, we had over 300 masks and distributed them out to our volunteers. So we've had continuous service, and, you know, thanks to our caterer trio, who's located in Canton, my staff, who I cannot say enough about. You talk about essential workers. They were on the front lines. The staff, the volunteers, the COA directors who allowed us to be in the buildings. Without those three pieces and the caterer we would not have been able to do what we've done. You know, so with that being said, you know, we've been able to deliver meals in our 12 towns. As you can see on the screen, our meals increased from, we were roughly about 400 meals a day to now we serve over 700. Through the months of April and May, we were taking in 20 to 25 intakes every day. My admin staff in-house here, they were rock stars. They worked from home, I think 2 days, and then they were like, we need to come back in. So you know, it was without a lot of hard work that we've been able to do what we've done. In saying that, you know, our goal, of course, was always, you know, to keep the staff, volunteers, consumers safe. You know, their safety and well-being of everybody was first and foremost. So we, you know, as a team, we brainstormed, okay, how do we do this? You know, so we initiated, you know, masks. Every single volunteer, every single staff person, we were able to distribute masks to. Hand sanitizers, equipment sanitizers. Every driver was given a bottle of hand sanitizer, and this is 300 or 400 drivers. So, you know, and back then, I mean, it's more readily now to get hand sanitizers, but back then it was liquid. It was like liquid gold. You could not get it. So we were, you know, borrowing. We did not steal, trying to get sanitizers, and we did. We, you know, the protocol, the program is really, it's the meal, but it's also a safety check. I've been doing this a long time, and they go hand in hand, and we had to, you know, sort of readjust our thinking of, you know, what constitutes a safety check? Do we need to actually go into a consumer's home and hand them the meal? Well, with COVID, you know, the social distancing obviously is a huge part. So, you know, we needed to keep, you know, the consumer safe, the driver safe. So we purchased, you know, 50,000 plastic bags. So we hang bags on consumers' doors now. We no longer knock on doors, you know, say hello, you know, we say hello to the consumers, but, you know, at a distance. We call the consumers, we say the meal is hanging on the door, and as long as we get somebody on the phone or a wave at the door, we consider our job done. Cheryl was great. Cheryl Leary created an awesome video. Check out our YouTube channel for the protocols of the drivers and how to deliver meals. We have over 300 drivers. So trying to get the word out to every driver, you know, was cumbersome, but between, you know, sending out emails and the videos and my site staff, sending out flyers, you know, we were able to get the word out of what our new normal was going to be as far as delivering meals. Let me see. So the safety, the caterer also at a day's notice, we used to package all the meals at the site. The food would come in bulk, and then we'd have volunteers along with my staff, you know, directing volunteers to package up the meals. Caterer in Canton, you know, without hesitation, they opted, or they were able to pre-package every single meal that we deliver, and that actually was was to keep the integrity of the meal, make sure the meal was safe for the consumer. So the meals have all been pre-packed, and it's 700 meals every day, so that's a lot for the caterer to handle. Let me see. As far as addressing the food insecurity, the home care caseworkers, they were fabulous. They identified 165 of our at-risk consumers, and we were able to get them out the first week in April, because of course our biggest concern was what happens if the caterer has to shut down, which in Massachusetts, several of the caterers have had to close due to COVID for a 2-week period. So we wanted to make sure we had plenty of food on hand for our consumers. So they identified 165 consumers. We delivered a 7-day shelf-stable meal pack and a 7-day frozen meal pack. And kudos to all the case managers who we met at the caterer's parking lot, and we were able to deliver those packages to our, most at risk, most frail, most in need, and had food insecurity issues. And we actually, I over ordered because, Mary Jean was always just don't worry about the money. Don't worry about the money. Just order what you think we need. So I ordered a second round of all these of a 7-day pack, frozen and shelf stable. So those will be going out the beginning of July, again, to our most frail and at risk. We also delivered early on through the month of April. Every consumer got 2 extra meals, one on Tuesday, one on Thursday. So along with their 5 meals every day, they'd get 2 extra to keep on hand. And then we've also been delivering snacks from the very beginning right through, it'll go through the end of June, whether it was a granola bar or a muffin, a high fiber muffin, or some type of a little snack that we would deliver every Tuesday and Thursday along with the meals. Let's see, as far as the volunteers, again, they're rock stars. We, because of our numbers almost doubled, the need to access volunteers became evident very early on. With the help, again, collaborating with all of the local Council on Agings, we were able to, as of yesterday, we were able to access 135 new volunteers since the beginning of April. And when you think of the daunting task of, every volunteer, they had to fill out an application, they had to go through the query process, they had to go through the training process, they needed an ID badge. We made sure that, those protocols were in place and we were not going to compromise that. We had to build more routes. We had about 75 routes. I think we have 90 routes now delivering meals. The volunteers have been key. And again, as I mentioned, Cheryl created that video, which was just really to the point of, and really showed the volunteers how important it is to follow protocols. Let me see. And I think that is it. As the last is just the PPEs and how when I look back and I'm like, I don't even know how we did this, but Cheryl was our PPE person too, as far as trying to acquire masks and sanitizers and gloves for not only staff but some of our consumers and all of our volunteers. So that was, and I really felt, once we got everything in place, I said, this is going to work. We're going to be able to do this. So, so it's certainly been a team effort, great collaboration with all the towns, all the Council on Aging staff, in order for us to run our programs. So, so I think that's all I have. So moving forward, we'll, continue to do what we do until we, until we get word that we can, at least serve seniors possibly in a senior center. Our congregate meals program where seniors actually come in for lunch, that actually terminated early March, or mid-March, but we're constituting a grab and go lunch. So Norfolk Council on Aging is the first one. We're going to do that in a few weeks, where they're able to come to the site and pick up a lunch and take it home with them. So, for those people that, for those seniors that really feel so isolated at home, they'll be able to get in their car and drive to the senior center and pick up their lunch and, and bring it home. So baby steps. This is a marathon. This is, it's not a race. It's certainly a marathon. So, we're just trying to figure out ways to combat, food insecurity and social isolation. So Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jane. And next, you get me again. So I'm again Cheryl Leary. I'm the Director of Planning and Development here at HESSCO, and I'll talk now about the programs in my department. So I'll first talk about SHINE. So SHINE stands for Serving Health Information Needs of Everyone, and the program provides free health insurance informational counseling to individuals who need information regarding all of the different Medicare and Mass Health programs. It operates with 2 HESSCO staff and over 40 trained SHINE volunteers. Who are counselors who volunteer their time. And in the past, our SHINE counselors typically spent significant time at all of our councils on aging, and they would meet individually in person with people who needed their assistance. So since the pandemic, that has changed, and we now operate that program pretty much by phone. Community members who need this assistance can leave a message here at our in our SHINE department here at our office, and then SHINE counselors who are working remotely will return the call. So the calls are all returned in the order they are received. So all the consumers who need this service are still getting served. It's just over the phone. Open enrollment for SHINE is a very busy time. In most cases, this is the one time a year that a person can change their insurance program, especially their Medicare Part D program. So SHINE typically meets with over 1,000 older adults during this open enrollment period, which generally runs October 15th through December 7th. And those coverage changes that people select during that time frame start in January of 2021. So we are working right now with our councils on aging to determine how to manage open enrollment this year. We know it will be different, but we don't know exactly how it will look. We do know that we will have a significant amount of effort in making sure that everyone who needs the help will get that help. For the Ombudsman program, the Ombudsman program is still operating, but similar to SHINE, it's shifted to phone support. The Ombudsman program has a HESSCO staff program director, and then it also, like SHINE, has trained volunteers. And these volunteers typically would visit residents of nursing and rest homes each month, and they advocate for those residents and they protect resident rights. And just prior to when visits in nursing homes and rest homes were locked down because of the concerns for the virus, our Ombudsman program, we delivered flyers to every facility with enough flyers for every single room in each facility with the telephone contact information for the Ombudsman program. So we're really happy we did that because we've been able to keep in contact with nursing home residents by telephone, as well as being in regular contact with the nursing home administrators and staff by telephone. So we do still have that advocacy and that support happening for nursing home residents, rest home residents, as well as their family members. We are looking at different ways to use technology to be able to provide communication access to residents. But we do find that right now the telephone has been working really well for us and for those residents who need to reach out. As we are looking at nursing homes right now in the state are just starting to slowly reopen for outdoor visits with families. We are putting together outreach materials that we're putting in outdoor brochure holders in those outdoor seating areas. So the goal is that we are still trying to make sure that people know the Ombudsman program is here to advocate and to help them, and that they have access to that information. So whatever creative ways that we can to reach people, that's what we're trying to do. The next program I'll talk about is the Family Caregiver Support Program, and this program's purpose is to support family caregivers by empowering them to develop action plans, to find relief from the stresses of caregiving. They assist with backup care planning and connection to resources. Our family caregiver specialist is Haley Stansbury, and she's culled resources together to support caregivers specifically during the pandemic, because things have been different for a lot of our family caregivers. Initially, she had a strong focus on preparation and backup care planning for caregivers. And now the focus has shifted a little bit to the longer term stress relief, because obviously we know that things are extending beyond what anyone thought back in March. And we are also really highlighting in that program ways to engage with care recipients, especially those care recipients who might have been attending day programs that have been closed, or who have illnesses such as Alzheimer's disease that may get particularly difficult for communication efforts. So Haley works very closely with those family caregivers on trying to balance all of the stressors that they are experiencing right now during the pandemic, and she's really helping them with those action plans. Haley is also really trying to find new ways to reach caregivers and really doing a lot of email outreach. She's used a Zoom platform to help with family meetings, as well as to provide education like we're doing here. And she also does a lot of work over the phone and can also do work through email. So she is still providing that caregiver support and has really developed that help specific to the pandemic and the resources that people need right now. So those are my programs that I oversee here at HESSCO. And what we'd like to do now, we have about 10 minutes left, and we'd really like to turn it over to all of you to see if you have questions that you'd like to share. So please feel free to use the chat feature or to unmute yourself and just ask your question directly. I will pull up the chat and see if we have anything in there now. What we have in the chat feature right now is just a message from Pam McGuire to everyone to say that HESSCO has been amazing in making the necessary adjustments to remain accessible to their clients during the pandemic. Thank you. And to that, Pam, we say thank you. And for those of you who may not know Pam, she works at the Foxborough Council on Aging in the Human Services office there, and she has done an amazing job herself in being accessible and helping the residents of the town of Foxborough. Do we have any questions or any other thoughts or comments that people would like to make?
Can I ask a question that I'm Elaine Weiner? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I have a question. As you were mentioning about the nursing homes, is the independent living arrangements, and maybe you can help me with this, but if you can, I would appreciate it. The independent living facilities that are part of the triage, like in nursing facilities where they have the independent assisted living and et cetera, and then long-term care.
Sure.
Those regulations now as to how that is opening up, can you help me understand a little bit about how that is in place? Because I was kind of wondering, the independent living seems to be so restrictive in a particular facility I'm thinking of that I have friends. And it almost precludes going there because everything is so limited, you know, even outside.
Sure, and I do know that there have been some strict limitations that have been placed, and then some facilities themselves, some of the property managers and owners have imposed even further restrictions on top of what were recommendations by the state. Elaine, what might be make sense is for us to connect afterwards. There is a specific ombudsman program for assisted livings. And that would be an assisted living community ombudsman that is housed up at the Executive Office of Elder Affairs. That wouldn't really cover the independent living sections. So what I'd like to do is maybe connect to you directly afterwards, and we can talk about what specific building or that you have in mind, and we can figure out if there's a way to direct you further.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure. And I have your email, Elaine, so I'll reach out.
Thanks. Thanks a lot.
Are there any other questions? See something else in the chat. So the in the chat, we have a comment from Jennifer. Great job, Team HESSCO. Thank you for all of your effort in serving older adults during this pandemic. Thank you very much, Jennifer. We appreciate your comment. Okay, any other questions or anything else that I can help the group with, or that any of our other speakers, Mary, Jean, Lisa, or Jane, can answer for you?
It seems like you've certainly risen to the occasion.
Thank you.
You know, I was impressed when I heard you talking about how many meals have increased, you know, from 400 to 700, et cetera, and that you've been able to make all the adjustments needed to deliver meals. And it really is impressive.
Thank you, Elaine.
Welcome.
We just want to make sure everyone has a chance. If you have a question, just let us know. Just feel free to speak up. We can look again in chat. Are more programs like this planned for Zoom or YouTube? And the answer to that is yes.
Yes.
The goal will be that we will have some type of monthly Zoom program. And if all goes according to plan, like we've recorded this one, we will then be able to upload it to our HESSCO YouTube channel, which is, in case you're wondering, HESSCO ES. So it's HESSCO ES. And we will be doing that hopefully every month, uploading a Zoom format like this. But then also we hope to have other short videos on just a specific topic that are delivered by experts in the field that we have either on staff or in our communities. Just 8 to 10 minute, maybe educational videos that we will also plan to pre-record and upload to our YouTube channel. And then we also, hopefully you're all on our email distribution list, because we will be continuing to do some e-newsletters and community updates that way. So absolutely, yes, there is more to come. Any other questions? All right, so hearing no questions and seeing nothing else in the chat, what I'll say is that I think that we thank you so much. We are so pleased to have had this event. Thank you so much for joining us. Please do not hesitate to reach out. And before we go, I am going to just give you our contact information here. Please feel free to call our main number and ask for any of us, or to reach out to the various departments, as well as to email us directly at our email addresses listed here. We welcome your questions. We are happy to share any information that we can about what HESSCO is doing right now, all about our services, and how we may be able to help you or someone that you care about. And I'll just open it up to the other presenters. Do you have any other final thoughts or anything else to share?
Well, if anyone had any other ideas about how to connect with people in their homes right now, you know, I know the COAs have done a lot on their Facebook pages and through their local cable, and we're hoping to actually get some devices, some tablets out to some consumers so that they can stay connected with us, they can stay connected with their caregivers, with their physicians. So any advice would be most welcome. This is a new world for us.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Please send us your ideas and your advice, as well as your questions. And I'll pause one more time and ask, are there any final questions or thoughts? All right. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
you.